Hello and welcome to the Summit School District Spotlight. I'm Kirsten Anderson, Summit School District Communications Director. I am joined here today with our Board Vice President, Lisa Webster, and Board Director, Vanessa Agee. Welcome and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having us.
We today are going to be talking about highlights from our November 7th board meeting that we just had. Of course, we'll be have highlights and bright spots from visits around the schools with students and staff. We'll give you an update on the bond measure, and finally talk about the financial health and exciting steps forward with career and technical education in our schools. So with that, tell me, ladies, I know that you spend a ton of time in our classrooms and schools. Talk about some of the things that you've been seeing recently or upcoming events that you'll be joining.
I got the chance to see the housing presentation and more so I would say a workshop at Silverthorne Elementary. And there were two different groups, a primary Spanish-speaking group, primary English-speaking group, and it was really interesting to hear everyone's thoughts on workforce housing, especially rental housing, and what the difference that might make in their families. And also got to go to Colorado Kids Count, really incredible nonprofit that takes data about Colorado's children, everything from some pretty grim stuff around hunger and homelessness to achievement in schools. And we know that when kids come to schools, they come to schools as whole children, and all of the factors around their family and whether they have access to health care and food and an excellent education, those all are part of that. So got to go to that. And then next week I will be joining Lisa at Breckenridge Elementary for their literacy night on Monday night. That'll be right after school until about 5 o'clock. And then the next day I will be joining one of the principals here at Summit High, and we will be taking a little tour while there's some special things happening here at the high school. So I've got some really cool opportunities to hang out with students coming up.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for the time that you spend doing that as well. Lisa?
You can't really do what we do if you don't know what students are saying about their education and what they need. Yeah,
for sure.
Lisa, what have you been up to as you've been out and about in the community?
So I've been hanging out at the high school and the middle school quite a bit. And I'll say for the highlight at the middle school, we've been celebrating community service. So the Optimists come in once a quarter, and we hang out in the cafeteria, and we provide ice cream floats to celebrate 5 hours or more of community service per quarter. It's a great way to create awareness to other students who may be thinking about it, to urge that community service activity or happening within them to pursue that. In terms of the high school, I've been, with my day job, I have the Youth Empowerment Society of Summit, and we've had a few meetings recently, and great discussion with our student leaders leading this youth-led group. And then just the energy in the high school and both the middle school is great. The high school, there's with the new cell phone policy, which I'm sure has been discussed before, there's just a lot more interaction. We have ping pong tables out in the commons, and right now in the commons there's a beautiful ofrenda for Dia de los Muertos, or La Muerta, or in English, Day of the Dead, displayed to honor ancestors. So if you haven't seen it, please come out because it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is really cool to see how all the kids brought in pictures of family members and meaningful things, and how, I mean, that's a pretty busy place out there, and how respected that piece of art and commemoration has been in the community.
Right.
Lots of hacky sack going on. It's making a comeback, as we were talking about.
Did it ever go away?
Not in my life. And then that volunteerism that you're talking about is so cool. I've got to see that with middle schoolers and high schoolers going back to the DVE October holiday events, the Halloween events, and like they're excited to be at their old schools and contributing and helping kids and community. So I think it's really neat that we have an emphasis on giving back to the community across our schools like that.
I know I just had 2 high school students reach out about volunteering for the Frisco Turkey Day 5K.
Nice.
Yeah, really
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Which benefits Frisco L, so it's all
Yeah,
tied
yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Love it. Switching gears a little bit, we would be remiss if we were not to talk a little bit about the bond and the results. As you know, the measure did not pass, 4A did not pass this year, but that does not mean that we're slowing down, but it does mean that we have had a lot of discussions and learned a lot. Lisa, you want to take us through some of the learnings and takeaways?
Sure, and yes, to reiterate, we have had a lot of lessons learned. We knew going in that it was the tax tolerance for our community was limited with the increase in assessed values that we've had recently at the state level, and that permeated through our the local levels. So for future bonds, strong community engagement and clear communications will be essential. And then keeping these initiatives straightforward and focused so everyone understands where we're coming from in terms of student needs.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're going to probably go out with community engagement and do some listening tours, which I think that that's going to be fascinating. As I've talked to people in the community, it really sounded like a lot of people liked a lot of things about the bond package, and they maybe had one thing that they couldn't get on board
Right.
with. And what's been interesting to me is that that one thing is kind of different across groups. So I do think it's going to be really interesting to see what we move forward with, and of course how that fits in with our community partners and other asks that might be out there in future years, and then just when it makes sense with our budget. But having said that, we still do have critical needs. We've been going forward with this bond. We didn't have like major deferred projects or anything like that. We're in really good shape, but we don't want to get into that position either. So what's the process look like for moving our most critical needs forward, Vanessa?
Yeah, we definitely still do have some needs. The ones that aren't as exciting, but certainly
Yeah.
vital for students to have an environment that they can learn in. Everything from roofs to HVAC to carpets to general painting to fixing showers in the girls' locker room here at the high school. Those things were all part of the bond. That doesn't mean that those things won't eventually get done. They need to get done. I would say this, I've heard certainly from community members who have said, I don't understand why you can't do a better job saving as a school district. And the funding model in Colorado is very tight. So the per student is one of the lowest in the country. Depending on what you look at, sometimes it ranks in the 30s, sometimes it ranks in the 40s. And so that means that we spend most of the funds on our biggest assets, which is human resources. And so teachers and staff get 89% of that budget. And then the rest goes to all the operations. So incredibly difficult to save. On the other hand, wow, you must have gotten more money from property taxes, right? No, actually not. The way that the funding model works in this state is there's a per pupil set amount. And the local funds pay for as much of that as they possibly can. And when our property taxes go up, we pay for more of that per pupil, and the state actually gives us less at that point. So it's very hard to save when you're spending 89% of your budget on our biggest resource, our human talent. So, but not all is lost. The facilities committee is looking at the things that are the priorities.
Right.
They will then bring that to the finance committee.
Yep.
And then the finance committee will make recommendations, and then that will be brought to the board in December. And at that point, we will work on figuring out the things that we can do. And based on even all I've said about the budget, we are AAA bonded, and we have an incredible team who does a great job of saving and does, when they can, and does an amazing job of managing our finances. So we have some money still that we can spend on these critical repairs and maintenance. So
Wonderful.
not all is lost.
Oh, and of course, prioritizing.
They have to be
Within that.
prioritized, yeah.
Within that, students and safety are at the heart of what we do, and I know there's a lot of questions about Breckenridge Elementary and specifically. Lisa, can you talk a little bit more about what our approach will be there?
Sure. Nothing has changed in terms of being committed to maintaining Breck-El as a safe and secure location or building for our district, and we are continuing to explore future options. So safety remains our top priority for everything, and we're dedicated to Breck-El and still considering what our best path forward will be. So
wonderful. And I think what we were doing previously is a lot of that, like with the roof and snow load, right? That's handled manually.
Yep.
And we'll continue to have those practices in place to keep it going in a safe manner. One of the initiatives that had a ton of support out there actually was career and technical education. And while we won't be building the same spaces to accommodate that hands-on learning, we still are moving full steam ahead to create those future-ready pathways. Vanessa, will you talk a little bit about the work that's happening there?
That's not stopping either, which is great.
Yeah.
Our students are telling us that they really want to explore potential careers in a much more creative way. So those pathways, future-ready pathways, are advancing as well. And for folks who are not familiar, there are 7 areas, including entrepreneurship, teaching, computer science, advanced manufacturing, engineering, skilled trades, outdoor leadership, and education, healthcare as well, if I missed that one. So really, that's what, based on going out to the community, they said, hey, these are the areas that are not only sustainable, but where we're really seeing interest. And the business community also said, this is where we need people. And so it's based on actually real world needs. So by fall 2027, each pathway will be fully aligned curriculum with opportunities for work-based learning, for concurrent enrollment, and industry certification. So you could walk away with a few certifications and say, like, computer science. Cisco certification is a pretty incredible thing to get. So that is not stopping. We would love to have a space that's more robust for that, but we have incredible staff and teachers. So it's an exciting initiative. We know it really equips our students to be ready for the future. We're excited about that.
I'm excited about that for my own students as they're entering high school,
Sure.
for sure, and thinking about the cost savings for us and just the opportunity to understand more about like what ignites passion in them.
I mean, I think you're bringing up a great point, and maybe something I didn't say, which I should. Concurrent enrollment means that you're also taking college credit classes while you're here at the high school that you can apply when you move on.
Yeah.
And when I say move on to that next, whatever, it's a community college, or if you're going to a regular 4-year school, you can transfer those credits. That's a huge money savings right there. Yeah.
Pretty cool, pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
It looks like I stole a little bit of your thunder, Lisa, talking
no.
about listening tours already. What else emerged from your discussions as a board group that you might want to share in terms of community engagement and next steps?
Sure. So out of those 7 pathways, we do have pathway advisory groups that are being stood up. And I guess I would make a public service announcement saying that if you, as a community member, are interested in participating in one of these 7 pathway advisory groups, we welcome you. So make contact with the school district to be part of that, so we can make our program as strong as possible to do what's best for our students and community.
Yeah, grow the health of the community. It's really cool to think about resiliency in our communities and having that be homegrown, and the potential for people to be able to stay here in the community if they choose to and be successful, or venture off into the wide world equipped to be successful.
It's a lot easier to answer what do you want to do when you grow up if you've actually had some experience with that. I mean, I'm guessing all of us have had a few career changes. I know you certainly have. Yeah, and while those are delightful, sometimes it would have been nicer to get to that sooner.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the district's financial health. We just had an update from our Chief Financial Officer, Kara Drake. She shared the first quarter financial report and also gave an update on the role of the Finance Committee and sort of backward mapped all the work that they did last year to help us be on track.
I mean, the first thing to say is just thank you to the staff and then community volunteers who are willing to serve on the Finance Committee. I mean, they're really crucial to ensuring that we have financial transparency and accountability. You can find the budget right there on the website to talk about transparency. It's a good read. It's actually pretty easy. It's actually really pretty easy to read.
As you've referenced it numerous times, I know that you know it intimately.
Well, I mean,
that's great.
You know, certainly not to the level that our great finance staff does, but you know, and that committee was established to support the board. And there are people on that committee that have some real expertise around finances, and especially with other school boards across the country, or other school districts, excuse me. And they're there to support us with fiscal oversight. They review financial planning, budgets, policies, to make sure that we are efficient and we are being responsible with public funds. So it's incredible that they collaborate on setting priorities and aligning financial practices with our district goals for an excellent education for our students. Very lucky.
And we are very grateful for those people. Lisa, can you introduce us to the members that had served previously and the new appointments?
Sure. So I want to echo the thanks for those serving on the Finance Committee. And we did have a pretty large turnover this year with term limits of those Finance Committee members. So I'd love to thank Kim Phipps, who is a math teacher here at Summit High School, Amanda Renz-Moon, who is a parent and a community member and shared her expertise with government accounting, Nick Brinkman, who is a mainstay since 2019. Well, I guess really 2020 when it was stood up, and with his First Bank experience, and he oversees Eagle and Summit County's First Banks, and I'm missing anyone, and AJ Barton, who is currently in the finance office and is departing for greener pastures closer to home in Clear Creek County. So I do also want to acknowledge those who are serving on the Finance Committee right now, who is Kara Drake, our CFO or Chief Finance Officer, and as has been mentioned, has a great deal of expertise in school finance. Dr. Tony Bird, our superintendent, Julie Johnson, who's principal of Summit Cove Elementary, Joe Cassay, who is a humanities and outdoor ed teacher here at the Summit High School, to provide educator viewpoint, as well as being the SCEA, our Teachers Union president, Katie Garvert, who's an assistant principal here at the high school, Rachel McGuire, who is a community member and parent, and the managing counsel in the litigation department for Oracle. Niels Pfaff, who is a CEO and founder of our own Own Resources, which focuses on operations and finance elements of different companies with a worldwide reach. He also had kids in the district. And then Nathan Nozari, he's the Village at Breckenridge general manager and is an active community member. And then, of course, we do have Chrissy Moulton, who's hanging with us. She's been with us from the start in our business services department. Stan Katz, who is a former, man, this list is long, is a former school board member from New Jersey and brings years of experience of financial management from the New York Stock Exchange to our group. Chris Garino, who's our board treasurer, and then myself, I still serve on the Finance Committee. So we have a wealth of knowledge leaving, but we also have a wealth of knowledge coming on board, and I'm excited to see how this group interacts to steer our financial health in the future.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear all of that talent and experience, all willing to help us move our goals forward and achieve our objectives. So we are grateful to the people who donate their time and energy to the school district. Out of that, they did provide some highlights and some recommendations going into the budget process this year. Vanessa, what can you tell us about sort of that direction?
It's really
Conversation.
good that they have thoughts, and really good ones. And they have reiterated to the board that they really want to make sure that we have a healthy reserve.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that they've really, for 2 years now, really said that is incredibly important. And they've said to us, you know what, you can't do it right away. It can be a gradual increase in the reserve over 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's really helpful to hear that and not just be told like, you need to do this next year. With how tight finances are, that would be really difficult. And we're on target with our budget goals. So right now we are looking good. Obviously going to be looking at capital investments that we need to make in our buildings and our physical plants. And we are still making investments in student services, bilingual support. We added some things into the budget this year for that, so that's incredibly cool. The community definitely said that's something that we need to make sure that our students and our children are successful. And then, of course, safety measures. We've done some really interesting trainings over the past, 5 months or so? And
That we've seen.
made some investments,
like,
already seeing
Yeah.
pay off.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
So wonderful. And I think, the other thing we talk about a lot is that we made a strategic decision to invest in our teachers that has caused us to dip into our reserves. And that has a starting point and best practices to emerge out of that with cost savings and prioritization. And so, I always want to remind the community that that was a very specific initiative to invest in our teachers. Anything else that you would want to add, Lisa or Vanessa, about the budget or how you guys talk about it as we will be kicking that process off shortly here?
I just want to give kudos again to our business services team because that's a lot of hard work. They're juggling 3 different budgets, right? One that's getting audited, one that we're in, and then one that they're planning for the future. So I appreciate their sound financial management and looking forward to what will be this year a very hard discussion. So we'll.
Especially when you combine it with what we're seeing at the state. And
Correct.
we've talked about that recently too.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
I mean, I would say, I echo that. I mean, we are one of 2 districts in the whole state that has a AAA bond rating, and that just basically means you have a really good credit score.
Right,
If you want to, correlate that to your personal finances. And beyond that, I would just say it comes right back down to our students. I mean, we're seeing our students do exceptional things in our community, whether you went to the theater presentation this past weekend, whether you saw them at Pumpkin Fest with robotics and kids that are building robots there, whether you saw the article about kids who are going international with the choir. I mean, we really have some phenomenal talent in students. And I guess I'd love to address one thing. I've seen people bandy about like, hey, the school district is just about talking about staying the course.
Yeah.
But what they're talking about staying the course with are some really pretty significant changes that started happening really in the past year and 3 months. Teachers and leadership has committed, they've seen like we have some things that need to improve in this district. We need to better meet student needs, hence the pathways, hence changing math curriculum in the elementary schools. That's the staying the course of the past year and 3 months.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to really see those results. We're still coming off of a pandemic, and I'm just really want to say how proud I am beyond a bond and what our finances are of our students and of our teachers and staff, and what a phenomenal job they are of staying this course of continuing to grow and improve.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
agree 100%. We see it every day, and I feel like every other day I'm seeing a student recognized and a
teacher
team
recognized.
a teacher recognized,
Oh my gosh,
and it's
yeah.
like so great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's awesome to see us moving forward thoughtfully with a continued commitment to academic and personal success. So
Yes.
Absolutely.
Go team.
Yes.
Anything that you guys, I think that we can say thanks for joining us today, everyone
Yeah,
out there.
thank you.
And join us next time.
All right.
Great. Have a great weekend.
Yes.